It's good. How are you?
Good. Listen, I'm just glad I got on. All this technology, now I know how to do
I was looking, I was waiting. I was like, okay, let me make sure I can put it on.
it.
Oh
This
man,
this is all new for me.
how you doing?
Hanging in there, hanging in there. Just got back from recruiting, so it's going. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I mean, I feel like I'm 2 weeks away from going back to school, so I'm trying to prepare my mind.
2 weeks.
Yes, teachers go back on August 3rd.
Where'd the summer go?
Oh my God, I feel like it flew. Oh
Mm-hmm.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Coach Peggy is going to join us. I think she's still out recruiting. I think that she was doing that same thing as well. So I know it's kind of hot right now with the recruiting and everything. Everybody's on the road. So she's going to join us in the next like 20 minutes,
All
which
good.
is cool. So I wanted to give us some time to get on and make sure everybody was able to, really
Yeah.
get connected and everything. So, but tell me how was your trip? I know it was a little, as long you went for about a week.
Yeah, so we went to Hamilton, Ohio. There was tournaments all over the place. There was one in Hamilton, well, two in Hamilton actually that we went to. One in Cincinnati, Louisville. There was tournaments out in Vegas. There was a lot of tournaments going on. We just happened to have most of our recruits in Hamilton, so we went to the Select 40 and P24, and then the another tournament, I think it's called the Midwest. So the first tournament was from like Thursday to Saturday, and then the last one was Sunday to Monday. I left Sunday night, but it's an awesome place. I love Spooky Nook in Hamilton, so it was good. It was good. A lot of talent out there, man. I love it. A lot of players that can help us win, and that's what I love. But a lot of just competitors, which I love. I love watching good basketball. I love watching players be competitive and just leave it out on the court and be great teammates. Like that's what it's about for me. And we watch everything. So we watch everything. I watch how you look at your coach, how you sit on the bench, do you high five your teammates, like how do you communicate in the game? I watch it all. And it's crazy after. I mean, you're in the gym from 8 a.m. to the last game ends probably. Well, the last game started at 9 p.m., but the courts are running behind, so the last game started at 10. So you're in the gym from 8 a.m. to like 11:30 p.m. sometimes, and it's exhausting. I mean, like people don't realize like, oh, you're just watching basketball game. I'm like, yeah, but you're analyzing every single thing, and like it's exhausting at times just analyzing and watching games and all that kind of stuff. So, but I love it. I wouldn't want to do anything else.
Oh my gosh, 8 a.m. to about 11:30 p.m. Oh
Mhm.
my gosh, how many cup of coffees did you have?
I'm not a coffee drinker. I am not a coffee drinker.
Oh,
I got my Diet Coke, and that's what I get for my
that's
caffeine.
it.
So,
Oh
uh,
man.
no, but then you got to go home and you got to make your next schedule for the next day, and your game start at 8 a.m. So you ain't going to bed till about 1 o'clock. By the time you wind down, shower, do your schedule, and all that, it's a lot. It's like just like everything. Like people don't see what goes on, besides X's and O's and coaching basketball games and practices. Like it's a lot more than what people think.
But I mean, you said a key thing. You gotta love what you do, though.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't love what you do, then it becomes something that you hate. Especially like you dread. You sit in those stands from that long time, and then you're like, man, I'm ready to go home instead of thinking about like what's in front of you.
Yeah.
So no, for sure. But
Mm-hmm.
listen, let's dive into it. When Coach Payton comes on, we'll get into
Okay.
her questions as well. All right, what's up, basketball film? It's Coach Sadie's and Coach Dzikas. Coach Peggy's going to join us later, and we are glad to have you guys to join our podcast tonight while we're talking about developing habits. Coach, before we dive in, give us one fun fact about you.
One fun fact about I love golf. I love playing golf. I've played golf since high school, and I've anytime I get some free time, especially during the summer, I try to get out there and golf as much as possible.
What? I would have never thought that. I would have never thought that. That's crazy.
Oh, I love the golf. Hmm.
Oh man. But listen, I know we talk a lot about we've been talking about recruiting for the last couple weeks. We've had a couple coaches on here that talked a lot about the whole athlete, and the biggest thing that I wanted to do with Prohibition Sports is try to reach athletes so that they can get the information that they're not hearing on a daily basis. And they can always go back to something and say, okay, well, what does coach say about recruiting and what we need to do next? So I want to give kids what I needed when I was a kid. So that's why I started Prohibition Sports, and that is our mission and what we do. So, Coach, tell us a little bit about your background, where you started. I know, I met you at Florida Southern when I
Yep.
was a kid. Watching in high
Mhm.
school, watching you play, and now I'm watching you coach the team. So, give us a little bit of background about yourself.
So I'll be starting my 15th year in college coaching. Um,
Ooh.
which is crazy. It's gone by, and my dad always told me this: once you get older, it goes by even quicker. And that isn't the most truest thing I've ever heard, just in time general, right? But I started my basketball career at Florida Southern in '08, and then by my senior year, I got injured for about for the month of November and December, 2 months, and so. I was kind of on the sidelines helping out, in games, sitting next to my assistant coach, and that's what kind of led me down to coaching, because I was like, dang, I think I like doing this. Like, I like helping my teammates. I love in-game coaching, like those types of things. And so when I graduated, I had no idea what I wanted to do. Actually, when basketball season ended in March of my senior year, I had no clue what I wanted to do, but it kept coming back around to, all right, yeah, I want to coach. And so that kind of led me down my path. And I think everything happens for a reason. I think I got injured for a reason, and it kind of led me into my coaching career, which is great. So I moved to Baltimore, Maryland, where I took a grad assistant position at a Division III school, and I think that prepared me for just everything in general, because I was the only full-time assistant, or I was the only assistant, yeah, that was full-time. Basically, we had a couple of part-time assistants, but also a Division III, you don't get athletic scholarships, right? And so
Right.
in 2012, we were asking someone to pay 83,000 back then, to go to this school. And so I think that prepared me really well in recruiting for other colleges. And when you're able to give scholarships, you're like, oh boy, let's roll. So 2 years there, graduated with my master's in athletic administration and leadership. Then I went from Baltimore City, which I love to death, to rural Kentucky, where the nearest Walmart is like 25 minutes away, right? So I got a different, two ends of the spectrum, but loved my experience in Kentucky. Was an assistant coach at an NAIA school, and probably the best NAIA conference, Mid South, and then became a head coach for my second year there, and so was able to get some head coaching experience there. Unfortunately, that school closed down, right? And so but again, everything happens for a reason. It led me back down here in Florida and the Sunshine State Conference. So I was at another school for 3 years. We won't mention their name, but I was able to get back home to Florida Southern in 2019 under Betsy Harris. Love Betsy to death. That's my girl. Was under her for 3 years, and then was able to kind of slide over one seat, and now be starting my 5th year as head coach at Florida Southern, which I can't believe, which is crazy. But that's kind of my journey. A lot of different spectrums in terms of schools, levels, and really just loving what I do and loving basketball. And again, like you said, you got to love it, and that's my passion. And helping ladies out, and just learning so much. The game of basketball can teach you so much, and so that's why I love it.
That's crazy, Coach. What a long rap sheet, because that is, a journey that you have to, really, really take to be able to just keep going, and especially when you're trying to find what you want to do. And it's crazy because every coach I talk to say, I ran from coaching. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then, we talk and sit down and think about everything and say, you know what, like I actually love, being able to help kids, develop and grow. And then on you guys' sake, become young women, and, after basketball and trying to figure out, what they want to do after that. So that's awesome. I'm gonna be honest. I mean, I watched your journey for a long time, especially when I was in high school, watching you play under Betsy back then. So it was definitely a big thing, that I definitely love. Am I right? That is it? Was it Bessie you played under?
I
Yes.
played under Jared Olson. I was under Betsy for 3 years as an assistant coach.
Okay.
But
Sorry. Yes, I
no,
did.
believe I
Listen.
I would love to play under Betsy too. I would have an Elite Eight appearance. But no, I see my coach all the time on the recruiting trail. Olson. He was there at Florida Southern for 6 years. He left after I left, and he now coaches at California Baptist out in there.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay, now I want to get that right now. I don't
yo,
want to
you're
say
good.
nothing, but I do remember Betsy coaching at Florida Southern, and I do remember,
Yes.
watching your journey as well too. So, but like I said, it's very tedious to make sure that you are knowing exactly what you want to commit to, because coaching is a lot of commitment that a lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't see the behind the scenes work of what we do as coaches, no matter what level you're on. And when you love it, you're gonna put your all into it. So I want to get into just our topic for today. And our topic is developing the whole athlete. And, we're going to kind of just emphasize on developing habits.
Yep.
Now, coach, how do athletes balance discipline with avoiding burnout throughout a long season of basketball?
So basketball, college basketball. Now every basketball season is long, but college basketball season is super long, right? You start
Hmm.
the first week they get to campus, right? We probably will start August 29th. They get to campus 22nd, and hopefully it runs to end of March, right? That's the goal, and that's a long time. So we always are intentional about managing their workloads. As a student athlete, right?
Hmm.
Proud to say that our team GPA was a 3.8 last year. Our
Oh,
team,
that's
we
awesome.
had 10 4.0s in the spring semester. So, Florida Southern, it's a tough school. And so just being intentional, and how we do that is just communicating. That's a huge part, right? Communicating with our players. How's your body feel? What are you doing to recover? Make sure you're staying disciplined. Talking with our athletic trainers, talking with our strength and conditioning coach. Making sure that we're communicating on all a high level. Right. I think also, just being disciplined, and understanding that you don't have to go 1,000%. It doesn't have to be that every single day, in terms of making sure you're doing it right, you're doing it correctly, and you're covering your sleep, your nutrition. Those are huge in all aspects of. But I think just being disciplined, and trusting the process, and understanding that it's not just what you're doing on the court, it's what you're doing off the court as well. And but I would also say, like, just being intentional with your management and your workload, but also filling your cup, right? Like, we talk about it a lot. Like, you got to be able to empty your cup in order to fill it, right? So you got to make sure
Hmm.
you're doing your grind, you're doing your workouts, you're doing your schoolwork, you're doing everything you can to make yourself better and make your team better. But also, you should be emptying your cup when you do that, right? And so you got to make sure you fill your cup, and whatever that is. My cup is golf, or hanging out with my baby, my Millie, my dog, right? Or hanging out with family and friends. That's what fills my cup. So I know when tired, exhausted, but I just want to do something to fill my cup other than, basketball. I think you have to have an outlet, a healthy outlet as well.
No, that's big. You said something real big, having a healthy outlet. I think a lot of times, kids, they get so consumed with the grind, and wanting to get there. And a lot of times what I tell the kids is, that's going to come with the work you put in, but your rest is also important.
It's
You
huge.
know, Understanding when your body is saying that's enough, because you don't want to push yourself so hard, because you're trying to get to a certain spot that you don't give yourself enough rest to rejuvenate so that you can come back to the grind.
Absolutely. And if I wish I would have known what I know now about nutrition, recovery. A lot of that plays a huge factor in your game, and how your body reacts, and how your body just works, right? And I kind of use the analogy of, like, think about your car, right? If you don't put enough gas in your car, what happens? It doesn't work anymore. You don't put oil in your car, it don't work anymore. You know what I mean? So, like, you got to be able to put some good stuff in your body. You got to be able to sleep right. But also, you got to take some mental breaks too, right? And so, just again, that's part of filling your cup and everything. So yeah, it's huge and important. I mean, sleep alone can help change just the way your body recovers and reacts.
No, for sure. I try to preach that to my kids all the time. I'll be like, "What did you eat today?" Well, I had a granola bar. What is that going to
Yeah.
do? You
Yep.
know, like they don't understand the importance of nutrition. They'll be like, "I got a headache, coach." When I think one of my girls just came on, she loves saying, "Coach, I got a headache." So I said, "Did you drink water today?" "No, I
Yep.
didn't have enough water today, coach." "Did you
Yep.
eat today?" "No, coach, I didn't eat today." And I'm like, the first thing you need to do when you wake up is drink a glass of water.
Yep.
Fine, so hydrate your body. You've been asleep for 8 hours,
Yep.
or they be up on the game till 2 in the morning, and then
Hmm.
now, they get to practice and like, "Coach, I'm so tired. What did you do last night?"
Yep. Yep.
So those
So
are,
important.
and they don't understand that is part of the burnout.
Hmm.
You're thinking it's basketball, but it's just because you're not doing the right things
Correct.
outside of
It's
basketball.
a lot more than you think off the court. And you got to have discipline, right? That all comes down to discipline. And so, you got to be disciplined and doing the right things that are going to help you, but also help your team, right? And so,
Hmm.
basketball game. So, are you doing everything possible to help win at the end of the day, right? And so, are you doing your job? Like I think Nick Saban do it. Do your job. You know what I mean? And that comes with everything. It's not just stats or on the court or practice. It's a lot of off the court stuff that help, and help you win and help the team.
Facts, coach, facts. Now, this is just a follow up question from what
Yeah.
we just talked about, right? Do you have like a lot of issues with freshmen that come to you that are trying to find a way to develop their habits and be intentional? Like, do they struggle? How long do they struggle within that time frame of getting ready for basketball season or getting into your season, to develop those good habits, for them and the system?
Well, typically, we kind of do our due diligence in the recruiting process to make sure they have good habits, right? And I always say this, and I'll tell this to every recruit, to every transfer we have. Just to get into our door, you have to be a good person and a good teammate. That gets you through the door, right? And then when you come here, and I always say this, and I say it to everybody, you got to be three things. You got to be competitive. You got to
Mm-hmm.
love basketball. You can't like it, right? And that's okay if you're not these three things, right? You got to be competitive, you got to love basketball, and you got to be a gym rat. So those are the three already standard culture of our standards, right? And so they know coming in, all right, like those are the three things, and you're here for a reason. You are those three things, right? Because we talk to you, we do our due diligence. But typically freshmen have the hardest time, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not used to the long season, but they hit two walls. Freshmen tend to hit two walls. I've been doing this for, again, 15 years, so I know a little bit of it, and you can see it. So the first wall they hit it's in preseason majority of the time, and it's because of like ton of work. Like work preseason is probably the craziest hectic time for us, right? Because you have workouts, class, weightlifting, conditioning, all those stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they typically hit a wall within like the first 3 to 4 weeks, and you can see it coming. And they're like, "What the heck did I get myself into?" Right? And you see it coming, and I think that comes with relationships as well, and knowing them and who they are. So that's like kind of the first wall they hit of like, "What the heck did I get myself into?" And then the second wall you can kind of see them hit is around Valentine's Day, right? February 14th, Valentine's Day, that's when they're like, "Oh crap, this season is super long. We have another month of this." You know what I mean? Because that's when their season's winding down in high school, and so you see a lot of freshmen hit those two walls in the beginning of preseason, and then when it comes down to February 14th, Valentine's Day, playoff time, like it's a long grind, and so just making sure you're having those relationships, communicating with your freshmen, and knowing them. You know when something's wrong with one of your players or something's off, and they just need a hug and say I love you, man. Like that's what they need. And so just having that relationship with them and understanding, and it's just communicating. Hey, like next year we're gonna laugh about this. Remember when you were crying in the corner? Next year we're gonna laugh about this with the freshmen, and then you're gonna be able to help those freshmen out too. You know what I mean? So you've been through it, and so you're able to help out. And we'll laugh about it next year.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember. I think when I was a freshman, the first thing I did was I was like, "Oh snap! Like I get to go to the parties and I get to hang out with the seniors and and then as soon as I got there, it's like we went to a party and then coach had text us and he was like, "Hey, make sure you guys are at 5 a.m. workouts." And I was like, "Wait, what? We got 5 a.m. workouts?" And they was like, "Yeah, man, you got to get up in the morning." And we had just got home at 2 in the morning. I'm like, "Oh man, I don't think I'm gonna do this no more. Like I can't." I can't live like this. And then it's like eventually you start to develop your habit of saying,
Yep.
okay, well, I got practice at 5 a.m. Is it worth going to this party tonight? Like, do I really need to do this? So, you develop that stuff.
Well, and understanding
But,
like you have to athlete, you have to make sacrifices, right? Like you're not
hmm
a normal college student in terms of like workload and understand, if you're a really high program, a really good program, there's expectations and you got to make some
hmm
sacrifices to be great, right? Everybody does. And so, you talk about behind the scenes, and a lot of coaches don't talk about it, but like sacrifices are made. And I was talking with someone when I was out recruiting, and I haven't had Thanksgiving with my family, like just my family only, since high school, right?
That's
So
crazy.
since 2008, right? So because it's always basketball season, we're always at a tournament,
hmm
we're always hosting games, you know what I mean? So like when you talk about sacrifices, like you know, and you want to be great, those kind of go hand in hand, right? In terms of it might be, oh, I can't go out to a party, or oh, I can't, I gotta study, instead of going to movies or whatever, or making TikToks or whatever kids do these days, you know what I mean? But
Facts, coach.
being great is sacrifice.
No, that's facts. That's facts. I mean, I think everything that you said is super important, because and then one thing that I want to say is that every coach I have talked to has said the same thing about when they are encountering a player. Before you hit my door, you have to be a good person.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think kids nowadays understand what it means to be a good person. Because in their head it's like, oh well, I shared my candy today though, coach. That does not make you a good person. It's a kind gesture.
Right.
So it's like you have to develop those things of like what a good person looks like. What does your heart look like?
That's
How are you respectful when you talk to me? Do because my biggest thing is like, do you say what or do you say yes or no? Like how do you respond? I hate when they say what, coach. I'm like, say that
and
again.
yeah, I mean, and that's a great point. Like, a lot of people, well, what is a good person? And to me, you have a good heart, and I think well, however you treat the janitor or however you treat the CEO of a company or however you treat a coach or, you treat them all the same, right? And
hmm
just being a kind person and, almost like the golden rule, treat others how you want to be treated, right?
No.
Like, to me,
Yes, sir.
that's what we look for. You got to be a good person and you got to be a good teammate to even get into our door, right? And so
hmm
you can be the best player, and I've saw it this weekend. You can be a really good player, right? And be a butthole and not be a good teammate, and it'll get you automatically marked off my sheet. I don't play with those things.
No, because you got to spend 4 years with this kid.
Oh,
So it's like
these ladies determine my job, right? You know what I mean?
that's true.
Yeah, 18 and 22, 23-year-olds depend on my, depend on my career. And so you got to make sure we're having the right fit, the right people that, fit into our culture and, that we can, basically win championships with. But just being good people, that's huge for us.
No, sure. No, for real. Because I'm like, when you said that, like, they do, like, your job depends on their performance a lot of times. I can say a lot of times, but
Mm-hmm.
actually,
Yep.
and that's one of the things I literally just had a conversation with one of my kids because they were like, Coach, like, how long do I gotta wait to, see an offer? What am I looking for? And I'm like, but you have to understand, sweetheart, it's a need.
Mm-hmm.
Like these coaches have systems, they have different things that they do, and it's based off their need. What if you go to a school that has 2 point guards and
Right.
you're now sitting on a bench, like you're wasting space. They can go get somebody that, is
Right.
probably that's going to be able to actually give them more production because they thought you were going to be different. And I'm like, it's more business. I said, then you get there, you feel like a family, and you find the right fit. So, those are everything you said, coach, is super, super important, super big, man.
Yeah.
But our next question, it goes, how should athletes measure progress when statistics don't reflect the work they're putting in?
Again, that's a discipline piece, right? And understanding the process and trusting the process, right? And I always say this: if you're motivated by stats, your motivation is going to come and go. But if you're motivated by you know understanding the process, helping your team improvement, right, the numbers will eventually come, right? So you
hmm
shouldn't just be motivated by stats and alone and accolades and awards. that you're going to be on a roller coaster if you want to follow that and be motivated by that. But you gotta work hard. You gotta be disciplined. You gotta trust the process. Elite level players know, right, and what separates them is not the outcome. It's just how hard you working. Are you being the best teammate you can be? Are you communicating at a high level? Are you competing at the highest level you can? And a lot of what stats, those stats don't show up in the box score. And we actually keep an impact rating on our during our games, right? And so the goal is to be 10% or above. Whenever we have 10% or more impact, it's an automatic win for us, right? And so what are those impacts, right? It comes down to everything: deflections, rebounds, assists, fouls, steals, points. Obviously points are in there, rebounds are in there, but a lot of those things that just hustle plays, like those all are impact scoring. So when we go in at halftime, my assistant coach Bobby, who's created this awesome kind of formula, gives me impact ratings of everybody at halftime, right? And so it'll say so-and-so is at a 22% impact, right? Or someone's at a -4 impact, right? And so it kind of sees like how much are you impact the game besides scoring, right? And so there's a lot of different things you can do, that doesn't show up on a box score that can help you. Help your team win. And so I don't think players understand that like don't worry about the outcome of sport or points or all that kind of stuff. You can impact the game so much bigger than that. Just being a good teammate, communicating at a high level. How are you lockdown defense? Are you helping your teammates? And we do a lot of culture stuff that doesn't show up on the box score as well. Are we giving 2 touches? How's our bench look? Again, being great teammates, like that's all huge in that process. And so just understanding, like, it's going to come as long as you put in the work, results will come. It's just as long as you're not basing your emotion or your confidence, on those outcomes when you're not getting it right. That's when those confidence kind of, a roller coaster, and they go up and down. But as long as you're putting in the work, and you're working hard, and you're being the best teammate, and you're doing everything you can. You talk about on the court, off the court, you're recovering right. Everything will take care of itself.
That's big. But the thing is that, like, when I think about like just the high school level of it, I think like the kids fail to understand the importance of what's outside of stats,
Mm-hmm.
right? I have a kid super talented, and she, like, one game she gave us like 19 rebounds, right? So a lot of times I was like, okay, you gave us 19 rebounds, but let's talk about the other performances that you did. Let's talk about what you did not contribute on this side of the ball, or those things. But she's like, coach, but I did this. But I'm like, that still wasn't enough because we didn't win.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
those are things that you have to understand, that like even though you're putting that up, like something else has to balance that too. Because even you do so much on the offensive side, but we don't give what we need to on the defensive side to make it stop. Then we don't the game becomes either even, or one is outweighing the other. And I think it's really neat that you guys do the impact scores, because now it holds everybody accountable.
Right.
Because if you say, coach, I'm not getting playing time, and you're at -4, I'm like, well, listen,
That's
you're at
a lot.
-4, like, I don't.
We keep a track of a lot of things. We stat, this year we're going to stat our misses in practice, and so we stat everything. Where's the misses going? So we do a lot of stuff that is analytical on the analytical side. And the game's moving towards that, and it has moved towards that for a little bit, right? But it's continuing to grow with different technology these days and all that kind of stuff. So, there's a lot more that you can do, other impacting the game besides scoring or rebounding, right? But understanding, like, your confidence doesn't waver whether you're hitting a shot or you're missing a shot, right? Your confidence doesn't waver because you already know you put in the work, and you're putting in the work. It will come eventually. And so just understanding, not if you're motivated by stats, your confidence is going to be up and down. And so understanding that the outcome will happen as long as you're putting in the work. And
No,
you're
for
putting in the
sure.
work and you're putting in the work for being for yourself, but also for your team, right? And helping your team, and not just putting in the work for yourself saying, I'm going to get my numbers, right? You're putting in the work to make sure to help your team win.
No, for sure, coach. I remember myself as a freshman, or just like I would say a senior in high school, and I tell my kids about this story all the time because I can only talk about my journey. And I was so like worried that I wasn't going to get a scholarship. And I told them, I said, I didn't care if I got one scholarship. I didn't care if I got one opportunity. All I
Mm,
needed was that opportunity,
yep.
and I knew that I would, I made it. And I think nowadays we chase so many, well, like I said, the kids chase so many different, opportunities. Hey, look how many I got. Look how many offers I got on this side. And I preach to them, you only need one.
Right.
You only need one. That one is going to get you in the door. And
Absolutely.
once you're in the door, you don't even know what that next 3 years holds. So let's talk about the next year, or what's that next step after that.
I,
Because I
go
no,
ahead.
like,
Cut
oh,
you off.
sorry. No, because I tell them about the story about, like, I came into college, my freshman year with 30, 30 kids. When we graduated, it was three of us left.
Yep.
So everybody doesn't even finish, sometimes, especially because, I went to NAIA and went to Weber, and we keep grinding and everything, but I learned a lot, watching people, like, sometimes mentally not strong enough, can't take all the practices. Time management is hard. They get in there, want to party, so it's a lot of different things that can you get sucked into. And the freedom of just not having mom and dad, saying, hey, it's time to go here, time to do that. It's you're getting paid to come to somebody's business and say, hey, this is what you got to do today, and your job is this, and this. And if you're not performing, or not being a teammate, that's a big thing. And I talked to them about, like, what if you go work at McDonald's? A lot of people go like, oh, I'll never work at McDonald's, but McDonald's teaches you teamwork. Somebody got to be on the fryer, somebody got to flip the burgers, somebody's calling out orders. So it's so many different things that I think people don't think about goes into that.
Right.
And even just parents, I wish parents would do way more research than what they do, about recruiting and just kids going to college, because sometimes I think we live out our oh, well, I want my kid to go to college, but sometimes we got to see if that kid really wants to do that.
But that's why you gotta love basketball, right? Because your mom or dad ain't gonna get on that line at 6 a.m. and run those sprints for you. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's okay to like basketball, but you will struggle in our culture. You gotta love basketball. And I'll tell you an example. Our senior point guard Sydney Gomes, she All American, has been with 4 years. She just graduated, and when your senior is leading, like we had a game at 5:30 on a Saturday. She got in the gym at 7 a.m., put a shooting workout up. We had a shoot around at 12 because she got another workout in, and then at 3 o'clock she came and got another workout in before the game time. So my senior leader is putting 3 workouts in before a game. Now this is not huge workouts, like 20 minutes, right? But it's getting work in before
Mhm.
on game day. I think that sets the tone and sets the culture, right? And so you gotta love it. You gotta love, and that's
That's
why
crazy.
was good, right? She loved basketball. She loved her craft. She worked on her craft, and results will come, right? But she wanted to do what was best, also for a team, and to win. But when you got to love it, you have to love it. To be successful, right? To be on a good team, you can't be half in, half out. You got to be where your feet are, and you got to put it all in there and say, all right, I tried my best today. I did all I could today, and everything will take care of itself, and I'm going to wake up and do it all again tomorrow. And that comes with that discipline piece, right? Like, not
Mhm.
every day is sunshine and rainbows. That's just how it is, right? And that's life in general. Not every day is sunshine and rainbows, but how are you going to deal with the adversity? What's best about being on a team, right, is you have other players that help you, right? When you go off on a job and you move to Nevada or wherever you move to, right, and because you got a good job offer and you move out there, you're not going to have a ton of friends, right? And so you're going to have to go through that adversity by yourself. So why not go through with some adversity, with some teammates that are here to help you? And we all have the same goal too, right? And so here to help you. And so you got to love it. You got to be where your feet are at, and understand that it's not all sunshines and rainbows, but as long as you put in the work, right? We talked about it. As long as you put in the work and understand you
Mhm.
do, that's all you can do.
Now, Coach, we I know we're talking a lot about the athletes. Now, let's tap into the coaching side of it.
Okay.
We're talking about developing an athlete, developing habits on an athlete. But if we think about it, as coaches, I think sometimes we don't have the good habits,
Hmm.
and then we don't put in the work, and we want our players to do that same thing. So, in a nutshell, like, what do you see? Like, what is your, you know, I would say, like, pathway of developing good habits for yourself? And that's even just when you wake up in the morning to when you go to sleep at night, just structuring your mindset to get through a day. You just said, like, hey, 8 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. You're recruiting, you're looking at different talent, but you're also setting your mindset up to be, a good person and to continue to be a good person no matter what adversity you go through as a coach.
Right. I think to me, my biggest thing is I hate being a hypocrite, right? I'm going to tell you to eat good, but my butt better eat good too. You know what I mean? And I think that's I'm a terrible eater. I'm a snacker. I'm not going to lie. And then, so I try not to be a hypocrite, right?
Mm-hmm.
I try to be a learner as much as I can, and try to set myself up to be successful in terms of learning, in terms of growing, in terms of being the best I can. And I'm not. Am I perfect? Heck no. Heck no. But I try to be close to it as possible. You know what I mean? So, but being those habits, being disciplined, and that comes with being a little bit older and being in life a little bit longer than my players, right? And understanding a little bit of, taken from what I learned in college and just carrying it over with discipline, right? I'm very thankful and that I had a great coaching staff, in my college days. Coach Holly, shout out to Coach Holly. She probably made me so much tougher with my discipline and attacking the day. She always say, bring your hard hat and your lunch pail and let's get to work. And, like, she was a little crazy at times with workouts, but like, I'm telling you right now, you would tell me to go run a half marathon and be like, all right, let's go, because that's my mindset. You know what I mean? You can't be like,
Yeah.
oh, dang, a marathon. You gotta be like, all right, go. We're gonna have fun doing it, right? And you gotta have fun in the process too of doing things. And I think that's probably the biggest thing is your mindset. Like, it's changing that. All right, well, let's go do it. Let's do it and let's have some fun doing it. Why do it and be miserable, right? It's just going to make it even longer than what it is supposed to be. So, and that goes with everything. You got to have fun with it, the process. And so, are some drills or waking up at 6 a.m. in the morning, or is that miserable sometimes? Yes, but you got to have that mindset of, okay, it's great. It's bigger than me, right? It's a team. It's what we got to do to win, and I'm fine with that because at the end of the day, we have one goal, right? But also, it's making me better. It's making me uh, you know, understand that there is a lot more than it's not just me, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
we. It's a we thing. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
No, for sure. No, 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 you did,
uh,
you did.
but
No, because I mean, I feel the same. I really do feel the same way because there were times where I've sat with myself and I would say, man, like, is this really for me? Like, is this something I really want to do? Because it gets frustrating. Like I deal a lot with parents, and keeping them satisfied as well as making sure the kids are
yeah,
satisfied. You
right
know,
there.
so it's like, you will get in those encounters and you're like, man, like, is this something that I really want to continue to do? Do I love it enough, to continue to deal with this? And, I'll sit with myself and find my way of quiet time, to say, okay, let me block out the noise and remember what my purpose was and why I'm doing this. And then like, when I'm thinking like that, like one of my girls had called me, Coach, what you doing? And I'm like, I'm just sitting here reading, or I'm just sitting here watching TV. Oh, I just wanted to check on you. And I'm like, you know what? This is why
That's
I do that.
that's
Like, this is why I do it, because no matter what I go through, no matter the situation, like the kids are the reason why I'm still here. And because I love, to watch them grow every single day, so it's just kind of like, the support from them, and even on the things I don't do, like outside of this, like I love flag football, so I play flag football on the weekends, and they'll
okay.
come out and they'll support and like, Coach, like I want to watch you, and they'll be my cheerleaders on the sideline after I just went and made them run 3 miles one day, but they still want to be around, they still want to share the love and be that, a part of that. And it makes me want to grind every single day. And some people can't say that. Some
Right.
people can't say that their kids are is that that tied into it. And a lot of times people look at it as, oh man, you're too soft. But then I have to remember that I'm coaching girls. Like I'm not coaching, these hardcore boys, and sometimes the boys need the love too, but these girls go through these ups and downs of emotions, especially in high school, where they're still trying to figure out what is it that they want to do. They don't know if they want to go to college. They don't know if they want, they want to go get their nails done. They want to get their lashes done. They want to go do all these different things. So it's like they come to practice with their nails done. I'm like, hey, we got a game. But again, it's like they're expressing themselves, and I love to see how they grow. So that so that's why I wanted to get a little bit into like the coaching side of it, because sometimes people don't really understand the habits that we have to do to keep us in the same mind.
Well, it also too, like, we're humans too. We have bad days. We have stuff that's going on outside of basketball. And so understanding that, and that comes with the relationships, right? And you talk about it too, like understand, like, and you can be real with your athletes. I mean, hey, I'm not having a great day today, like, but practice makes me in a whole lot better mood. You know what I mean? And so
Mm-hmm.
here I'm all in, my 2 feet are in. But I'm just letting you guys know that, I haven't had a great day today. So let's have a great practice to cheer me up, right? And so, but as long as you got to have that relationship and be real with them, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay to have a chink in or a little, in your armor. Or it's okay to have bad days, but I'm here, and I'm all in. I'm showing up, and and I'm gonna give it my all. And so understanding that, like, we're humans too, and so we go through emotions. We handle them probably a little bit better, right? Because we're a little older. Um,
Yeah.
but I can only imagine growing, being in high school or being in middle school now these days with cell phones, technology. It's a lot crazier, a lot more distracting, a lot more out there than we were ever, right? And so I can only imagine growing up now these days and how much social media affects everything, and you're worried about your image or TikTok, worried about all these things, and so just being real with them, and I think that relationship piece is huge.
No, that's big. No, that's big, Coach. Now, I wanted to talk to you and Coach Peggy about this. I guess she's still kind of dealing with her side of things, and that's okay. We'll try to get her on sometime. But I want to go into this now. Looking ahead for 5 years, what habits do you believe will become even more important as as college athletics continue to evolve?
So I think, with the changing landscape of athletics right now, right? NIL, transfer portal, technology, you got to be adaptable. I think that's like first that comes to mind for me. You got to be able to adapt, you got to be able to adjust. And again, we talk about that discipline piece, right? You got to be disciplined and consistent, right? A lot of players, want to be held accountable. And so you got to be consistent with that. But just being able to adapt and work hard consistently and be disciplined consistently. We talk about that relationship piece, right? It's huge in building and communicating. I think that's got to be even more at a high level, right? Because, even with college athletes, we're finding more and more. I've talked to multiple coaches about just communicating with them, like how these phones like change their communication a little bit, right? And so being able to communicate on a level that's not just surface but deeper, right? Not just, hey, what's up, how you know what I mean, being able to communicate on a deeper level. But I also think, besides adaptability, relationship building, communication, you got to have some self-awareness, right? And resilience, especially in this time, right? And I say that for both coaches and athletes, right? uh, More changes and more adversity than ever, probably right now in college athletics. So, how are you handling that adversity, right? How are you? How can you find value in the adversity, and you know, uh, and can you thrive in adversity? Can you be a problem solver, right? And so I think that's huge, right? Because it's always college athletics. At this point, we don't know. It's changing daily. So tomorrow, you know, tomorrow Division II could say they the 5-and-5 rule is going right, is passing. So you got to be adaptable, but you got to have some self-awareness and resilience, right? And again, staying grounded in that and your values, right? I think that's huge. And I think, it's just, how do you respond to adversity? It's being adaptable, being a relationship type person and building that communication, discipline, consistency. I think those are huge, right? And so, it's hard to measure some of those things, but you can, right? You can be consistent, you can be disciplined, and then just having some self-awareness. I mean, that's huge, right? I'm a huge reflector. So like I reflect on all my conversations, probably like before I go to bed or just when you're quiet time, right? I reflect on all my conversations I had during that day. And, even after practice the next day, I'll be like, hey, I'm just reflecting on yesterday's practice. And, I probably didn't have the words after practice, but here are my words now, right? Just being a reflecting and self-awareness. I think that's huge.
Oh yeah, no, that's big. That's big, and just understanding what that means, like, so what self awareness means, the resilience piece. I think like really understanding that. Like, I was talking to some of the kids, and we were outside. Our gym was closed, and we were outside, in this heat, and in their head, they're like, "Coach, it's too hot." But I'm like, "Hey, man, like." When you go to college, preseason conditioning is outside. Like, there's no option. Like, you guys have to go, straight to conditioning. They're going to take you to, run some laps a couple times. So you have to find a way to be adaptable, to, be able to know, how to push yourself in those moments. Like you said, like when adversity comes, like, who are you? What do you look like? Because if I can't trust you in adversity, then
Right.
I really don't know if I can trust you, when things are just going straight, because now it's just like you're just being who you are only when it's good, and that's big. So I think that's a big thing.
Right. And we talk about it, right? We talk about adversity. And when you get in the real world, you know, we're all going to be sitting at a round table and your boss brings a problem to you and you're going to be like, all right, here's the solution. You know what I mean? You're going to be the
Mhm.
first because you've already, you've faced adversity for 4 years or, you're going to be like, all right, here's the solution. And probably some people are going to look around and be like, oh my gosh, and your boss is going to be like, great, you're a problem solver, right? Instead of a problem maker, right? And so I think, you got to be able to pivot. You got to be able to adapt. And, a lot of things goes on during a game, right? You got foul trouble or, whatever it is, you got to be able to adapt and pivot and be versatile and resilient in those types of things. And if you're that on the basketball court, you're going to kill it in the classroom or you're going to kill it in your job, or life after basketball. If you're able to pivot with a lot of things in life, right? You know,
Mhm.
it's a lot of pivoting in life and adversity and it's basketball is going to help you and as long as you continue to respond when adversity hits, respond appropriately, respond positively, and again take it as a challenge. All right, cool. All right, I'm gonna show you, you know what I mean? Or I think just being able to respond to adversity is huge these days, right? And respond positively.
No, no facts, coach. No, that last word you said, positively, was big, because a lot of times, I even catch myself, adversity hits and I'm getting frustrated, and I can feel my emotions to start to go high, and I'm like, you know what, give me a second, guys, let me calm down a little bit before I talk to you,
It's
because I
self.
don't want to give you my frustration,
Yep.
you know. So it's just kind of learning those things, and in their head, like, oh, coach is mad at me. I'm like, no, I'm not mad at you. I just need to figure out things. So it's kind of like just understanding how to respond and react,
Yep.
in a positive way to find a solution, rather than you're frustrated trying to, make a decision off emotion. You could have made the wrong decision, and now you gotta, sit back and be like, dang, like I probably should have not did that.
Yep.
So that no, that's really big. Now, Coach, I definitely, want to, appreciate everything. Usually, right now, we're supposed to be doing questions, and I gave my kids homework. They're supposed to be asking you a lot of questions,
Oh boy.
but, I definitely want to appreciate you coming on our podcast, because, a lot of times, again, like I say, I want to give the kids somebody that I wish I had when I was growing up, to give me some kind of direction, to understand this process, and, just learning, the things that you needed, and not just as a college athlete, but as a person. Because college teaches you a lot of different things, like you say, problem solving. Now, I don't even, I hate when somebody calls me and say, hey, man, like, this is my problem. I'm like, hey, so what are we going to do
You're
to
right.
solve it?
I,
Like, because I can't help you solve it, but hey, let's pray about it. Like,
I have one in my office, probably 2 years ago, and I changed offices, but it was hanging up, and I said, "You bring me a problem, you better have two solutions already." You talk, right? It's just that thinking, right? Like, all right, we can I can help you, right, with those solutions, but you gotta bring something to the table too. You just can't bring me all your problems and expect me to fix it.
no
You're an adult
facts.
now. You're a big girl, so Yeah.
Well,
So,
that's one of the no,
go
that's
ahead.
one of the things they're gonna forget though. Like they're not a kid anymore. So once they hit the campus, it's like, hey, now you got to sit and think through those problems that you have and figure out what's next.
Yeah, no, I think this is awesome that you're doing. I appreciate you having me. You had some big time guests, and so to be considered, I'm honored, and I think it's awesome what you're doing and helping these young ladies and helping them understand not just about the basketball piece, but as a whole person piece too, which is great.
No, I appreciate that, Coach. Because sometimes it gets a little frustrating because you want to, keep going and you want to keep pushing. But I appreciate you guys for taking the time out because I know you guys are super busy. With every your schedule and just making sure that you guys take the time for yourself. So again, like we always appreciate the things that you guys do for us. Never think that you guys are doing anything in vain. I definitely want to continue to support you and follow your journey. Definitely bringing my girls out to a game this year.
Come on out.
So
Thank
I'll definitely be reaching out. But again, like I definitely appreciate you, Coach. Just showing up and just being present and just being attentive to our podcast today.
you. Anytime, anytime. Let me know if you want me to have on again. You come to our practice. We'll come to your anytime. Again, I just so honored and appreciate what you're doing.
No, thank you, Coach. All right, fans, listen. I thank you guys for tapping in. I see you guys popping in and out. If you guys want to see some clips, if you missed it, please make sure that you are following my Instagram and please go follow your Florida Southern Mocs and Coach the Dzikas on their journey for this year and for their future years going forward. Good luck this season, Coach, and thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Have a good one.